So here I am. It's 4:20. It's 4:19 right now. I just got back from getting pizza, but then before that, I was out in the world. I was doing what I love to do, and someone asked me today. They said, "What are you gonna do today or tomorrow? What are you doing this weekend?" And I told them, I said, "I'm gonna smile and I'm gonna laugh." And I said that with the straightest face possible because the easiest way to live your life is to live it. And in one sense, it's like a, do I show privacy? Do I, because I'm sitting here right now, right? And tomorrow I'm sitting here thinking, or it'd feel great just getting up and having my eyes turn on. Because outside of that, it's not that I'm going to go do anything and it's going to change the way I feel right now. So, some other things I did today were literally just be myself. And getting to that point where I can feel comfortable and feel at home and feel worthy of being somebody that puts intention and purpose into everything they do so that they can get a quality experience, so that the experience in itself is this great expression of life. And when I sit here feeling as content as I am, I can look back on a day like today and be like, yeah, out of all the things that are possible to do in this world at the age of 24, I know that today I have done everything necessary for me to look at a situation and say, like, for example, I'd love to have a salad today. Okay, let me go get some lettuce, right? But having myself at this point completed that journey, and at every step of the journey, whether I was in my car, whether I was picking out what lettuce to buy, or whether it was driving home, the entire journey within itself was this full circle moment that is this moment, that is this feeling. It just happened to be in those other spaces. And before I got my lettuce, I went to go get honey, some salt, some oranges. And I'm really excited about all these things because I've learned that I really enjoy the kind of tool that is money. I enjoy using it in the sense that I have the ability to nurture it in such a way where by using it in one avenue today, it also means the other moments where I'm like, "Ooh, an orange sounds great." I know that I have an orange in my pantry. In that moment where I'm sitting there going, "Oh, it's time to make a smoothie." I know I have honey in glass sitting there ready to be put into a smoothie. And the fascinating thing about all this was that prior to that, prior to me going to the farmer's market, I was at the beach eating an acai bowl. And, the most interesting thing happened to me there. And for those of you who have gone 5 minutes into this and are enjoying what you're hearing, I'll let you in on this. This whole manifestation thing and this whole making things go from dreams or ideas into memories. It's very unique because I could tell you a story about how all that works right now in real time. And you can have an example, but that doesn't mean whether or not you care or whether or not you believe me or whether or not I even had to say what manifested. And the fascinating thing is, like, when I think about YouTubers and okay, so that's me realizing that I just was about to talk about other people and what they do and what they don't do. And this is the point that we've gotten to, or at least I realize that I've gotten to in life, because as far as the social media thing goes and as far as having a phone goes, the ability to talk about someone else is very high. I was speaking with someone yesterday and they were telling me that they feel insecure, that they wouldn't know how to talk about something, that they maybe couldn't sell a product, or that they couldn't essentially let themselves be interviewed, is the general gist of where we're going with this. And I also witnessed that same person moments later tell me more than 5 things about somebody that wasn't them. And the fascinating thing is that, and now this ties into manifestation and the whole concept of turning your dreams, your ideas into memories, is that in the same sense, in the same field, that an individual can focus their time and their attention and their energy on regurgitating information that has nothing to do with them, is also in the same field that someone focuses their time, attention, and energy by manifesting something and allowing that to be in their field. And the reason I'm saying this is because, in the same sense that if, for example, I'm 24 and we're going to objectively say that a 24-year-old can learn things that maybe a 50, a 60, or a 70-year-old doesn't know. Okay, and objectively, if there are 1,000 people who are either 50, 60, or 70 years old and haven't learned a particular lesson and therefore are repeating a particular experience in life and choose to continue that cyclical motion, because by repeating it, it gives them something to talk about, something to gossip about, something to nag about, something to get frustrated about, then they're going to consciously manifest what they're focusing on. And I said this yesterday to somebody, that same person. I said, it's not about the thoughts that you have, it's what you make of the thoughts that you have. And I really do have to say thank you to Brian Withers on YouTube for this, because for the past, really since the lunar eclipse, my time and attention and energy has been focused on, first off, myself, but then second off, the notion of, okay, let's do our absolute best to respond to everything, especially the moments and the times when I would normally react. And what I have found is that the ability to act on inspiration and the ability to resonate with simple things like, oh, I'm happy right now, or it's a beautiful day, or I might not agree with this person and what they're doing or what they're saying, but I do agree that they're choosing to see it that way, just in the same way that I'm choosing to find a bit of contrast in the sense that what you're speaking about might not be what I'm speaking about, but I choose what I'm speaking about on purpose. And I choose what I'm thinking about on purpose. And where I'm going with this and why any of this matters and how this ties into manifestation is that in this world, people either fish for you or you fish for yourself. When someone fishes for you, I guess in a sense you're going to be grateful for whatever they've caught for you, which I would agree is what happens in the real world because having been somebody who was in that position, that's what happens. And then when you learn how to fish for yourself, it becomes the situation in which what makes sense to you is quite literally making its way to you. And not just the thing itself, but also what is required to make that exchange, that transaction happen, is also on its way to you. And it's on its way to you because it's the literal opposite cycle of sitting there and wanting cycles to happen so that you have things to gossip about or things to nag about. Except you're not gossiping or nagging, you're appreciating and you're loving and you're in harmony. So by definition, it's two completely different. It's if you wanted a visual imagery version of this is the yin and the yang. It's because both coexist within a space and where because they both coexist, there is one option, the one that's gonna happen, the one that you make happen, the one that you choose to partake in. And what I'm also now realizing is that a big portion of my life has been in this. I'm 24, and 6 years ago, I realized that I was letting other people fish for me. And now I'm at. I told you 6 years ago, I realized that. So I'm in 2025 now, and I've been fishing for myself for about a year. And it's been one of the most magnificent human experiences I've ever felt. This ability to quite literally look at something and say, that's mine. And then for it in all of its details define me. And the fascinating thing about all this is like a lot of it is in a perspective material. And now that I'm aware of this, that means that there is more coming on its way to me. Because the other part to the whole yin and the yang thing is because that's a two-dimensional version of comprehension, when in reality, I live in a third-dimensional world. And when you have ideas, and this is all just my own theory of the way I think about it, when you have ideas that go go in your mind and kind of expand, you can move around and tinker and customize that is like more towards like a fourth dimension. where in the sense that I'm also realizing like, okay, you don't have to have the contrast of, we'll put it super simple as like nagging versus prosperity. You could look at it as the yin and the yang in the sense of like, oh, well, do you want it to be minimalistic or do you want it to be baroque? Because that's a bit of a contrast in itself, in the essence that one is and then the other one also is. It just, they're two different energies because one requires a different energy than the other. So that's the basis of the contrast. So all of this is also metaphorically also in the same extent as, oh wait, you have the opportunity to post things on social media with the mindset in where you can create content, and that because you create content, every piece of content you create is like another minute of the sun hitting a bed of flowers. And let's just say hypothetically that each social media platform is like a different bed of flowers, or is your herbs, like one could be your herbs and the other one is your citrus, and then the other one is your vegetables, something like that, right? And so the pure notion that you can post content is the watering. Like that's the energy, that's the sun, this power. And then in a very literal sense, when people view the content, it's because, well, let me back up just one more step, because posting it would be granting it all of the energy, right? But for something to grow, it would require water and soil. So the water in the soil is actually how you, it's not like what you post, it's how you're posting it, basically. This is where I'm going with this. Because being able to post something because you can, because you feel good, that's why you did it. And then when you get to the point where it's, oh, the energy that I have, I love this energy. I'm going to then go take this energy into that room, and I'm going to do what I do with that energy. And it's actually going to even create even more of that same energy. That's watering. Because the soil part of it would be the fact that it's the act of the creating. Because the seed in itself, the media, is being cultivated within the fact that you feel good, within the fact that you're happy to do it, within the fact that the environment is being put together to support the life of said post. And by doing that in different avenues, you can then at some point go harvest all of whatever it is that you're creating. And the key in all this is the patience part. The patience part is necessary in the extent that, based off of what we see in the world, when you put a seed in the ground, as of right now, tomorrow it won't be ready yet, right? So that objective, oh, I'm gonna post, that's an objective thing. And then the subjective, oh wait, I have to wait just a second just so that I can let the post do what a post is supposed to be doing. Because in the same way that when you go and you literally have a garden in your backyard, like me for example, I went to the grocery store and then they had this mint plant and I was like, I know that in the summer I'm gonna need mint's gonna be really good. So I took some of the mint off because I used it for making a salad, and then I took it out of its little container, and then it was planted. And today, my backyard, it's growing more vines. It's growing more and more peppermint plants, peppermint shoots, leaves, buds, mint, and even more so, I was able to transplant one of those roots, one of those stems, and I have another mint plant. And I did that off of pure intuition. And the only thing I ever had to do was water the plants. And then even there were even some days where the earth was like, "Hey, August, I know that you have all of these great looking plants. I'm going to grant you the water. I'm going to do the watering for you. All you got to do is be in your room and talk to the camera, and I'll take care of this. I got this." And that's exactly what happened, because when I go outside, the celery that we cut, it's already growing again. I didn't have to second guess or doubt any of that. And so when you can let go and kind of just let it all happen, there's a magnificent result that just totally catapults everything forward, and it's like nothing I've ever felt before. And at the same time, it's also because I put less time, attention, energy into the whole nagging and gossiping and the doubt and the shame and the guilt side of things, and I use Brian Withers has made a great chart for all this, but there's like positive expectation, eagerness, harmony, ease. All of this is just straight up semantics, and all of this is kind of just like tongue in cheek stuff. But then for the people that truly get it, I'll just say this: it's a completely different life experience, like wholeheartedly. And the best way I can explain this to you is just imagine that feeling of being loved and nurtured and cared and feeling warm and heard and understood. And like as a guy I'm saying this, right? And it's like part of me is like, how did I get to the point where I'm a guy who loves to think and loves to feel? Because the fascinating thing to me is like I used to grow up thinking that women were supposed to be doing that. But then after biology in middle school, I was like, wait, I'm also half a girl, but half a girl in like the genetic sense. Because there's also, when I grew up, like there were definitely dudes, guys that were more feminine, just in the way that there were girls who were more masculine than they were maybe more feminine. And like that's totally okay with the world. Like that's 100% okay. And the fascinating thing about all this is like having witnessed, I asked myself one day, you know what I said? I said to myself one day, what's it gonna be like being a girl that is gonna be around me, right? So I sat there in my apartment, thinking to myself, okay, we're gonna have to cook, we're gonna have to clean, we're gonna have to share spaces, we're gonna have to do laundry, and we're gonna have to mutually agree upon the design of said abode, and all of these great things having to do with what's gonna go in the refrigerator and what's gonna go in uh, the garage, and all these great things, the color of the walls, what the bathroom is going to look like. And so I realized, like, okay, I have the opportunity in front of me to realize and resonate and remember all of these things that I just said to you, and then implement them myself. Because as a girl, how many times does a girl get a guy's help for everything? And then as a guy, how many times do you get a girl's help for everything? And so it became very unique for me because by doing all the things that a girl would do, I'm a guy, so like that's as a guy, and I'll get to that in a second, but like as a guy, you have to quite literally put yourself in their shoes so that you can recognize the magnitude of what they're gonna do. They're literally gonna be a greenhouse for you, literally. I mean, I don't want to objectify the essence of divinity. That's like the literal mom. So do you realize like having to do all these things, like you got to do what a woman's gonna do when a woman is pregnant, but you got to do them. And it, to me, like being 20 and realizing like, oh wait, and like I could get into the whole thing about how I was raised and all of this other stuff, but I'm just gonna tell you how I see it because I started to see things a little bit differently. I started to see them in my own way, and I was like, wait, I'm actually developing my sense of what I am looking at and what I'm looking for. Because now being 24, it's like I understand both what it looks like and what it feels like. And then as a guy, it's like if a girl can recognize the masculine nature of how a male is the giver, the provider, the the creation and the environment is just a result of what I make of my own thoughts. And the thoughts that I choose to feed and the thoughts that I choose to be worthy of having. And it ultimately has changed my whole life in the past 6 years because the first 3 years was like, what am I doing? And then a full year of being like, I took a full year off of social media, and that was the year where it became so, the best word to say it was like, it was so essential to look at my stove and be like, what's on the back burner? What do I have on the griddle? And what's in front of me that's boiling? And then to turn off certain stove heads, whatever they're called, and then to take the pots and the pans off, and then just to focus on the fact that there was a stove. And if the stove itself needed to be cleaned or repaired, and then for this past year, 2 years, it's been like a reintegration period in the sense that I'm able to walk out in the world with this new tool belt. And I'm 24. And I know a lot of people have their own way of living life. It's just that I realized that by creating my own home and then developing a garden around it, I now have the opportunity to sow my own seeds and to be my own home. And it's a bit different because I didn't know that this was the path I'd take. I didn't know that I'd be comfortable with resonating with this feeling to the extent that is going to be someone else could be sitting in this bed right now and they have full jurisdiction over their own lives, over their own responsibilities, their own thoughts. They can even resonate with the version of upbringing that I had, and to hold that space and recognize that they don't need me at all. Not one bit. Nope. Doesn't need me. Just in the same way that I don't need them. But there's this one thing where, like, yeah, you could be a complete self-loved person and not really need anyone else in the world. I'm sure that there's plenty of people out there right now that are just like that. But in one very honest, simple sense, for there to be another version of me that can also be on this bed, as of right now, I only know one way of that happening, and that essentially requires someone's stomach. But what houses that stomach is called the body. And what is also in that body is a heart. And what's also in that body is a mind. And what pumps the blood in that body is someone's soul. And we're going to share the same spirit of life, because she'll be sitting right here and we're going to be breathing the same air, and so will the children. And so where I'm going with this is, I started talking about how my day went. How someone asked me, they said, "What are you going to do tomorrow? What are you up to?" Well, my answer now is, I was about to say, I don't know. But then also I was about to say, living the spirited life. And like, yeah, I obviously have a plan. Like, part of me is like, oh, these people that they're gonna be listening to you, August, and they're just gonna sit there and say, oh, does he even have a plan? Like, what is he doing with his life? I'd say the fascinating part about being someone who does what I do is that there's, like, by doing it, you kind of have this like resonant moment with a version of yourself that's like, oh wow, he's actually doing the thing. And then there's like another other resonant version of yourself that's like essentially made up of someone else's thoughts, where they're like, oh, you should feel insecure, or you should feel doubtful. And it's like, well, I mean, I having had already been someone like that, I don't really have to think too much on those thoughts anymore, because I don't know if it's worth me thinking those thoughts anymore. So yeah, it's now 4:52. I've spent 33 minutes 54 seconds on this. We're gonna transition into a podcast. So that's what I'm gonna do. Take care. All the best.